Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer found himself in some hot water this week, a lot of hot water, scalding hot water, for some comments that he made on one of his radio shows about Peyton Royce. I think it was Wrestling Observer Radio on his website. It was him and Brian Alvarez. They were having a conversation about the Iconics, and this was the exchange that was isolated. Somebody isolated this clip and actually posted it on Twitter and tagged Peyton in it. And that's how she became aware of it. But this was the clip that was posted from the show. Meltzer said, I thought the Iconics had a cool act in NXT and on the main roster. I just don't get a thing out of them. I don't think their promos are particularly good. Their wrestling isn't good. I think Peyton's transformation to look more attractive, I don't know. I don't want to say, but I don't think that. And then Alvarez butts in and says that they were more attractive in NXT. And Meltzer says, I thought so, yes. To me, I would say so, but that's neither here nor there. And, Alvarez says, well, nobody's saying that anyone's unattractive or that Peyton is unattractive. And Meltzer says, no, of course. But he says she doesn't stand out to me. When she was in NXT, she did. She was a lot lighter. Now, to hear me say it is you really should just listen to the clip yourself. And really, you should listen to the full segment or full show. Because me saying it sounds horrible. Dave saying it sounded horrible. There's just no other way around it. And Peyton Royce reacted to this by saying, so what would you have me do, Dave? Starve myself? This is how nightmares for young women start. The females in your life must be proud. Meltzer has since apologized profusely for what he said. He said he takes full responsibility for it, hopes that others can learn from his stupid mistake. My thought on it is this. I, read The Observer every week. And I have heard the podcast that he has done before. I know how he speaks. I know the kind of things he talks about. So I go into this knowing how he writes and how he speaks when he is on his shows. And I knew what he was talking about when he said it. He was not saying that Peyton Royce is fat. He was not insulting Peyton Royce's looks. He was not trying to be offensive to her in any way, in a malicious way. But what he said came off absolutely horribly. There's no real way around it. What he said and the way he said it was terrible. Because Peyton Royce is not sitting on the tour bus going from city to city listening to fucking Dave Meltzer podcasts. So she has no idea. Someone sends her a clip. And it's of Dave talking about how I used to like her more in NXT, and now she used to be lighter. And so what is she going to think? I can't even really blame her, because she doesn't know. She has no context to any of this. And frankly, even if she did have context, she still has a right to be offended and be hurt by what he said. So he apologized, as he should have, because he sounded like a complete idiot the way that it came out. But it was worded very badly. I think the reaction has been way, way over the top on this. To the point where I kind of feel sorry for Dave. I really do. It's one of those situations where you pile on somebody so much for something, and you make it out to be something that it really wasn't, that you actually start to have some sympathy for that person. And that's kind of where I find myself with this whole situation. I think he said a stupid thing. He should have apologized for it, and he did. And I think he's sincere in his apology. There are some people who will apologize for things, and it's pretty fucking obvious that they're just saying it to save their skin. They're not being genuine. They have a history of doing these things, and then they go right back to doing it. I really don't think that's the case here. Just, based on, this is my personal opinion, having, read the guy's work and listened to him before. I understand what he was saying. What he was referring to was the fact that, and I don't even know if this is confirmed or not. I don't know if Peyton's ever publicly talked about this, but he's inferring that she had work on her breasts, that she had breast augmentation to make her breasts larger. And there was a period of time, I think, actually, where both Iconics were out for a while. I don't think they were hurt. And that was the rumor or the belief was that they were taking time off to have cosmetic surgery, and then eventually they came back. And so that's what he was referring to. And he has talked about this before. It's been even in the newsletter and stuff, when certain people disappear for a while, right? And then eventually they return. Why they were away, they kind of took a little vacation. And it's inferred that a lot of the women, not all of them, but a lot of the women have had work done on their chest. Now, that could be, it could be because they wanted to and it was their own choice. They did so of their own volition. Or it could be that they did it because they just felt that, or maybe it was even inferred to them, if not directly told to them, that, hey, you might want to do this. Or they feel like, well, I'm looking at these other women and I feel like it'll help my career if I have this done. So for the sake of my job, I'm going to do this, or I feel I have to do that. Whatever their rationale is behind it, right? There's different reasons why the women may decide to do it. But, whatever it is. Me personally, when it comes to this kind of stuff, I don't give a shit. I really don't. If it's their own choice, go for it. If they're doing it only because they feel it's what the company wants, or because they're not going to get a push unless they get bigger boobs, go for it. I don't care. I don't watch wrestling to see women, I only watch wrestling because I'm watching their tits and ass. That's not why I watch wrestling. Maybe some people do. To me, if I need that sort of gratification, believe me, there's this thing called the internet. There's plenty of other places where you can go and get that. That's not why I watch WWE. So I honestly, for me personally, I don't care. I don't care if they've had their boobs done or not. It doesn't faze me. It doesn't bother me. And even the times when I would hear or read Meltzer talking about it, it's like, okay, who cares? I may crack a joke every now and then when somebody comes back and looks different than they did the last time, because it's funny. But I don't really spend too much time thinking about it myself. And look, if they do it, if they feel like it's going to help advance their career, guess what? Welcome to the world of entertainment. Remember, Vince McMahon once upon a time had Roman Reigns wearing blue contact lenses to make him more marketable. Yeah, good times. That only lasted for a few months. But shit like this happens all the time. Men, women, wrestling, television, movies, whatever it may be. This shit goes on all the time. I'm not even sure why it's a big story or why it's a big deal. I mention all of this, though, because that was what Dave was referring to. He was not calling her fat. He was not saying she's fat, she's thin, she's this, she's that. Like, I understood the context of what he was saying. I'm not saying that it should have been said or that it didn't come out the wrong way, because it absolutely did, and it was pretty embarrassing. But this reaction, this overreaction to this, every wrestler jumped on top of Meltzer. You had Seth Rollins, -6 stars, and you had all the MVP and just all of these different people who felt the need to chime in on this. And it's this mob mentality that sort of takes over. Everybody just gangs up. Bischoff is somebody who just hates Meltzer anyway, but he never misses a chance to crap all over him. We know that. And the thing about it is that I get that they're all friends, and I get that they feel like they're a family. And when someone attacks a member of your family, what's your first instinct? You feel compelled to respond. You feel compelled to come to their defense and to do something about it. And I think that's what we're seeing here with the WWE roster. I think they also probably didn't quite understand the context of what was being said. They heard the clip, and they heard about what happened, and they heard that, somebody went after Peyton Royce. How could you possibly do this? Peyton Royce, she's an angel. She's this very nice person, this beautiful young lady. How dare you say something so horrible about her? And so they all jumped on Meltzer, and they all had to chime in on this. Renee Young, to me, was the most offensive of all the people who did. And that was really disappointing, actually, because I like Renee. I think she's, very down to earth. and the way she comes across on TV, which is rare because there's a lot of people on that show who come across as just a robot and no personality. And Renee actually looks, sounds, and feels like a real person. But she chimed in and she called Meltzer a true piece of sweltering hot garbage. That was her reaction to that clip. What a true piece of sweltering hot garbage is what she said. Now, I can tell you that when I call somebody a piece of garbage, which isn't very often, but it happens, if I'm going to call somebody a piece of garbage, then you can bet your ass that they deserve to be called a piece of garbage. And there are a lot of people who probably deserve to be called a piece of garbage. I don't believe Dave Meltzer is one of them. I think that to call him a piece of hot garbage for, talking about how, Peyton Royce used to be lighter when she, didn't have cosmetic surgery or however it was that, again, he phrased it. I mean, he was playing verbal gymnastics, he was. And that, I think he did it to himself, frankly, because instead of just coming out and saying that, he was sort of dancing around it. And that didn't do himself any favors. So, of course, people are going to hear that and they're going to think, well, he's talking about something else. Because these people don't listen to him. They're not in that little bubble. They have no idea what he's really referring to here. Fucking Jalen Rose on ESPN. They had Jalen Rose asking Charlotte about this. You think fucking Jalen Rose is sitting at home listening to Dave Meltzer on his fucking iPod? I mean, come on. But everybody chimes in and the whole gang gets together. And this is the end result here. It became a huge, huge story. It became a far bigger story than it should have. Now, maybe something good comes out of it and that it starts some kind of discussion about women and their looks and how you've got to be respectful and there are certain things not to say. Hey, I'm on board with that 100%. But I think all of the hate and everything that was directed towards this one individual was completely ridiculous. He apologized for it. He didn't even waste any time in apologizing for it either. I mean, I think he realized pretty quickly that he'd done fucked up. So he took responsibility for it. I mean, I just got done talking about Hulk Hogan. Hogan apologized for what he did. I would not compare the comments that Hogan made, though, to what Dave Meltzer said, which is why Hogan's sort of in the rut that he's in, where there are some people who just can't forgive him for what he said. The two situations are not exactly the same. It kind of comes down, I think, to the actual words and what was said. But to sum this whole thing up here, he said a stupid thing. He apologized for it. The context was twisted because what he was referring to, he did a very poor job of articulating it. And I think there's a lesson learned for him and everybody else here. And the lesson is this. The lesson is that if you've got something to say, just come out and say it. Don't play games with words. Words matter. Language is very important. I've said that on the show before. Be clear in what you are trying to say because there are people who will misinterpret you, who will misunderstand you and will take it the wrong way. And there could also be people who frankly have it out for you, who probably were just, creaming their pants over being able to jump all over this guy. I'm sure that was there were some people who did that too. But whether you like the guy or not shouldn't have anything to do with this. Whether you're a Meltzer fan or a Meltzer hater, you can't stand the guy's guts, and it doesn't matter. Just look at the situation for what it was and what he was trying to say. He did an awful job of articulating it. I honestly, in my heart, don't believe that this is an evil person who is, being evil and malicious in what he was trying to say. But he still said it. He fucked up. He paid the price for it. But I think the reaction from all of the wrestlers, in particular, jumping on top of him, it's the family thing. I get that, but it was way overblown. And Renee Young, as an example, just using her as an example, her jumping on social media to call this guy a piece of human garbage or whatever it was, that's just one example of the overreaction, I think, to this story.